Hello everyone, you are watching Life Education for Teens. Today we will be talking about the college admissions process. We are very excited to be joined by a professional college admissions counselor, Ms. Christine Chapman.
I'm Christine Chapman, and I am an educational consultant and an educational entrepreneur. I have been working with students since I myself was about 18 years old and just immersed in the college reality myself. And I've been working for about 30 years in helping students through the college process, primarily here in the United States. But I also work with students who go to college, choose to go to college abroad, whether it's in Canada, Australia, Europe, and the UK. So I'm really, really excited to be here and to be able to answer questions and be a resource.
It's awesome. Yeah, we're very glad to have you. We really appreciate your help, and we're very excited to ask some questions.
Cool.
So
Take it away.
I guess, yeah, sure. So the first question that I have is, how many schools should college or should students looking to go into college look at applying to?
So I think first and foremost, one of the best pieces of advice that I can give to anybody who's looking to create a list is to make sure that that list has some balance. So obviously there are going to be reach schools on a student's list. There are going to be target schools, which I call 50-50 schools, like all the stats are there, you're in range, but there is that sort of X factor question mark as to whether it actually will happen or not. And then of course there's that safer range of schools where that you fit into all of those categories, and if you submit an application, most likely will receive admission based on what you're seeing in terms of your research. That being said, I think the ideal number really depends on what a student really wants. Like, for example, if a student has 5 reach schools and there's no way that that student is going to decide not to sort of apply to all 5 of those schools, then I would say you'd have to add a couple of targets and a couple of safeties, probable schools. In an ideal world for me, when a family asks me that, or when a student will ask me that question, I will say in an ideal world, I don't like to see students applying to more than 5 to 8 schools. Like, I sort of feel like 7 is that sweet spot where you might have 3 reaches, 2 targets, and 2 probables or safer schools. I also advise that regardless of the category in which your schools fall, that even the schools that are probable schools on your list should be schools that you're super, super excited about. Like, worst case scenario, I end up with schools that felt safe to me at the beginning of my search, but safe or not, I'm super happy to be attending that institution, right? So yeah, sweet spot 7.
Great.
All right. Yeah, second question. What should we do to begin our college search?
I think first and foremost, you need to start thinking about what you're looking for, right? And I think in an ideal world, and again, COVID sort of gets in the way of that, this year in particular, I usually, if I have a student working with me early enough, advise a student and his or her family to go and see one big state school, a small liberal arts school, and an urban school, just so that you can get a sense of what you like, right? Some kids are going to be daunted by a big city school, or even a smaller city school, because the city is not necessarily where he or she may want to be in college, and only by visiting campus is he or she really going to get that sense. Some students are really, think that a huge state school is what they need, but once they get on campus, realize that it's tremendously overwhelming, might seem isolated, perhaps. And a lot of times I think small liberal arts schools don't get as much play because students assume that because they're smaller in population size, that the campus itself is going to feel small, and that's not necessarily the case. So my first piece of advice is visit, and then take stock of what's important to you, right? Like what kinds of clubs and activities are important to you? Major area of focus. Do they have the majors that you're looking for? Are they, are they schools that you could imagine going to because of location, because of size, because you were either really excited about fraternity and sorority life or you aren't? What kinds of research opportunities are there? Are there sort of special focus areas or different approaches that are really, really interesting? Like Brown has the open curriculum, right? Colorado College has kids taking, one subject at a time. Dartmouth has a really interesting, different sort of term format. Some schools are really sort of core focused. So Northeastern has that great co-op program. So depending on the different kinds of schools that you're looking at, you are going to find that there are going to be different flavors and different opportunities that come with different schools. And doing your research, I think, is first and foremost, and just taking stock of what you're looking for.
Mhm.
That would be the first thing I would do.
Yeah, and so you mentioned a lot about taking a campus tour. Would you say that virtual tours are enough, or would you still recommend trying to get to it, like given the situation that the world is in right now?
Um, I think it really depends on the student. So I work with students who here in the United States, most students like to see an on-campus reality, right? And that's sort of part of the tradition of visiting schools. Most international students, for example, don't get to see a campus, right? They're doing virtual tours, they're doing web visits. I think what COVID is doing right now is forcing us to um, imagine what life is like for people who just don't have those opportunities. Virtual tours aren't going to give you the sort of that feeling of, oh my God, this place feels like home. I feel like I belong here, right? It's not going to give you that sort of real sort of sense of I've been on campus, this place feels right. There's this sort of other factor that is highly personal. On the other hand, I think virtual tours give you opportunities to listen to voices of other students, to be able to see what the physical plant of a campus looks like. And if those virtual tours are done well, might even allow for you to take a glance into, what a classroom setting looks like or talk to a professor. So I think it really does depend on what you're looking for. But the reality is the virtual tour, I think, is as good a start as any. And I would start in this day and age with deep exploration of a website and the opportunities that are available to each student and a virtual tour, and then start narrowing down your list and trying to save some of the visits that are in person to realistic opportunities that are safe during these weird times. Yeah.
Awesome. Man.
Awesome.
Our third question is, should I take an ACT, SAT, or both?
So I'm not, I don't know about you guys, but you're all seniors in high school, right? And I would imagine that the idea of spending multiple Saturdays, waking up at the crack of dawn and sitting for 4.5 hours to take a test is not your idea of a good time. It certainly wouldn't be my idea of a good time. And I work in this space, right? I have never been one who has said, take both. And I know some people are of the opinion that you should take both tests. I suggest that students take a true sort of baseline of both at some point in time. Practice, not Saturday morning, sometime when you have time to sort of lock yourself away or go to a test site, and like a practice test site, if you will, like a test prep company or whatnot, and have a true baseline done for both the ACT and the SAT, right? Do your best. Don't answer the questions that you really don't know, so that you can have a true sense of how you would do on the test, right? I would have that assessed, and I would have whomever is assessing it tell you by showing you your scores and doing a deep dive into what those scores mean, which test is better suited for you. The ACT and the SAT are similar enough tests that if you prep for one, you might do okay in the other, but they're different enough tests that if you are in the test prep sphere, the approaches are different, right? In terms of how you would prep a kid for the ACT versus the SAT. I would choose the test that is fit right for you and focus on prepping for that one test. That would be my, and at the end of the day, just to sort of add to that, in an ideal world, my timetable that I advise all of the students I work with is make sure that all of your standardized testing is done by the end of junior year, right? So that means usually students I work with take their first ACT in December, and then we'll take an ACT in February, April, June, and July. It gives you 5 opportunities to take that test. You're most likely not going to take it 5 times. You're not going to need to, but at least it gives you that cushion. In terms of the SAT, if you started in December, you'd have December, March, May, and June, right? In an ideal world, I don't want any junior who finishes junior year and is going into senior year spilling over and doing test prep through the summer before senior year. That summer should be about internship opportunities, volunteer opportunities, doing anything that they feel really passionate about, and hopefully getting a head start and almost completing their applications before school begins. And that's just for mental health reasons more than anything else. Like, you want to start your senior year and be able to rock it out and be able to feel like 85, 90% of your applications are done, right, by the time you start your school year.